of EU citizens coming to live in Britain, but the majority of those arriving were from outside the EU. Our correspondent Sarah Campbell has been studying the figures.
Much as the government may wish to stem the tide, people keep coming. Britain's status as a place hundreds of thousands want to move to remains unchanged. In the year to June 2016, 650,000 people migrated here. That's the highest number on record. They are leaving too. The net migration figure, which takes into account the number who emigrate, is almost unchanged from last year at 335,000. But that's more than 3 times the government's aspirational target of less than 100,000 migrants per year.
Brexit gives us the opportunity to control numbers coming in from the rest of Europe in the same way that we can control numbers coming in from outside Europe. So I think there's an opportunity during the negotiations to ensure we can deliver on that, which I think was central to the referendum campaign and a clear message from the British people.
There were a record number of immigrants, 284,000 from the European Union. Today's figures also reveal that for the first time, Romania tops the table in terms of country of origin, with 54,000 immigrants, followed by 44,000 Chinese and 38,000 Polish.
Very disappointing, and underline why we have to take a very tough position in the Brexit negotiations, frankly. I think that migration at the present levels is simply unsustainable. We've thought that for some time.
Labour today accused the Prime Minister of failing to provide EU nationals with certainty about their future here. Most of the data released today predates the Brexit vote. However, there are signs it may be having an impact. In the year to September, there were over 37,000 grants of permanent residency to Europeans. That's double the number the year before.
Those don't include the applications that are still being processed by the Home Office, and there's evidence of quite a big increase in the high tens of thousands of applications that are still waiting to be decided, and there's some indication that that is going to go up a lot more in the quarters to come.
The immigration debate continues to dominate headlines, and these latest figures will do little to quell the concerns of those who are worried that too many people see Britain as their destination of choice. Sarah Campbell, BBC News.
Let's talk a little more about these figures today, and with me in the studio is the Shadow Home Secretary, Labour's Diane Abbott. Thanks for coming in, Diane. First of all, on the figures, I just noticed a couple of interesting things I wanted to pick up with you. One was to do with the fact that most of the number was taken up from people outside the EU. What's your reading of the kind of balance of where people are coming from?
Well, I think that people are coming here to work. It's a fantasy people come here to just sit and claim benefits. And the only way you're going to slow the numbers of people coming here is A, to deal with the skills gap, because employers say they need these people with their skills, and also to stop employers using overseas labour to undercut British labour.
The ONS saying there's a statistically significant rise in the number of people who are looking for work, 130,000 of the number, compared to 107,000 last year. 300,000 people coming to live in the UK for work-related reasons. Are you concerned by the rise in that looking for work figure?
Well, if they're coming from within the EU, there are actually rules around freedom of movement. And I think one of the issues is we've not probably applied the rule as thoroughly as we might do, because really you're supposed to have a job.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So how should that change? What would Labour do to try to really rectify that?
Well, first of all, you have to remember that you're not going to have access to the single market without freedom of movement. And assuming that's the way in which we go forward, what Labour is saying, we should apply the rules to freedom of movement, so you come when you have a job. What we won't do is scapegoat migrants in the way that some politicians are doing. What we won't do is, Theresa May's idea that you should make teachers border guards and stop immigrant children going to school if their immigration status is in doubt. We're very much against scapegoating migrants, but we're very much in favour of enforcing the rules and also making sure that immigrants, whether from inside the EU or outside the EU, can't undercut British labour.
When you've said in the past that it's not true that immigration drives down wages, this is another element in the argument. Your colleague Yvette Cooper earlier today saying it does, and I've got to quote somebody to say that. Who's right on that, do you think? Do you think Yvette's right, or you're right? Are you sticking to your view?
You may see a correlation between high levels of immigration and wages dropping, but that's to do with exploitative employers. That's not to do with the immigrants themselves. And what we have to deal with is exploitative employers. We have to deal with issues building up the factory inspectorate. We have to stop immigrants being used to undercut. But let's not blame the immigrants themselves.
On the broader point, Dan, about the perceptions, and given that these figures today are out and clearly there'll be big headlines in different ways in different areas, what is Labour's message on the level of migration? What are you saying to people, given that, of course, we've just seen the election of Paul Nuttall as the leader of UKIP saying that, he's going to give you a lot to think about in lots of your traditional areas, and this is one of his biggest themes. So what are you saying today to people, given that the figures are out today?
We understand the general fears that migration excites about joblessness and job insecurity and so on, and we certainly want to see the rules enforced. But it would not be right to encourage people to believe that immigrants are the cause of all their problems.
No, but is the level too high?
The only way to bring the level down in current circumstances is to deal with the skills gap and enforce the rules about freedom of movement.
But if somebody was asking you on the doorstep today and campaigning in your seat in London, do you think that the level of immigration is too high? What do you say?
Well, they don't ask me that in my constituency.
No, well, I mean, they might do. They might do.
They don't. It is a mug's game, pretending as a politician.
But you can say whether you've got concerns about the level. Have you got concerns about these levels of numbers or not?
We know these people are coming here to work. And that's right. If you want to bring down those levels, you have to do something about the skills gap and people being used to undercut. But I'm not going to play, in post-Brexit and in the era of Trump, I am not going to play a game around pandering to people's fears on migration, because we know where that ends.
No,
that's my position.
I am not interested in playing a game either. It's more to do with Labour's positioning on a very important issue, and whether your message to voters is that you have concerns about this level of immigration, or whether you think that they're sustainable, for example, or manageable.
Labour's position is that we believe in fair rules and reasonable management of migration. We don't believe in scapegoating anybody.
Dan, good of you to come in. Thanks very much. Diane Abbott there, Labour's Diane Abbott.
You didn't, frankly, have the balls to put country before party.